Okay, so I'm showing you a couple of things today. Both of them have to do with what is important in your sewing room as far as notions and things. Everybody knows what you need, but here's some things out of the garage that you need. Needle nose pliers, a side cutter, or my daughter says, no, Mom, it's a diagonal cutter. But anyway, I call them side cutters, but it's the diagonal cutter, side cutter. It's got that beveled edge inside where the cutter is down here and then it bevels up. So it's a really great tool in the sewing room. And then a hammer. Whoops, loud. So what do we do? What do we use a hammer for quickly? When you're sewing leather, and when I use this hammer, I'm going to put it on mute so that I don't blow your eardrums. So if you, this is a pretty thick piece of leather and I made a seam on it, and you can see, like, if you made a tote bag or something out of that, you don't really want that sort of hump that happens because of the seam. And you really can't literally take it. Some leather you can, but you can't really take it to the iron and press it open. You can try it, but I was concerned about the tooling on this leather. Not that it would flatten it out, but I just wanted to show you that there's options to the iron for leather. One of them is that you can open your seam and just sort of burnish it like that. But the other thing is, like this leather, this piece I've already hammered. This piece here, you just open it up and get your fingers super clear out of the way. Where's my... So you can see it really flattened it out nicely. And then over time, over a short time, it'll start behaving nice and flat. So it looks more professional to have your seams flattened out a little bit. So that's one thing that we use the hammer for. And another thing, if you had a pair of jeans or a skirt, and most of the time we deal with these flat felled seams, which are the kind that are, they're bulky, and usually you see them at one side of your jeans. So when you want to rehem them, say you cut them off and you want to hem them, you have a straight cut, and you can't really just hem. You can't just fold it up and hem along this line. You need to fold this in first, because you can't hem a raw edge. It'll just come undone. So what happens when you fold that in is this becomes easy to sew here, but then this lump right here becomes very bulky. So what we do with that, this is not going to want to go through the standard sewing machine very well. So you just give that a couple of hits. And I actually saw that flatten out a little bit. So this, it really relaxed those fibers, and it made it super flat. I can feel it. You would see it too if you did if you could see, do your own example. It really flattened it out. So now you can go through the machine with it. So for example, you're on the machine and you're sewing and you're getting to your lump. You've already hammered it. But when you get to the lumpy part, go ahead and walk the flywheel down, and you always wind it toward you so that you can stitch over this with just manually rolling the flywheel. If you use the machine pedal, sometimes it goes too quickly. The needle does not have time to recover and it'll break. So walk it over. If you feel that lump is just a little bit too much for the machine, just walk it by hand. So that is the reason that we love our hammer in the sewing room. So the other thing that we use these guys for, I have this zipper. It's a jacket zipper, and I want it shorter. Well, obviously you cannot shorten a jacket zipper from the bottom because you need that to unhook. So I want this zipper, I decided I wanted it to be 6 inches. So I'm just going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I want the zipper about 6 inches. So I flip it to the back. I'm just putting a pencil mark. So there's a couple of things that we're going to use these tools for. One of them is that diagonal cutter. I'm not going to cut anything yet, but what I want to do here is there is the stopper at the very top of the zipper. So you can slide that angle in there and you can just tickle that guy out of there. You can get it to raise up by squeezing the diagonal cutter over it. This one's really close to the teeth, but if you could isolate it, yesterday's zipper was easier. So I'm not trying to cut this, I'm just trying to get it off. It's lifting. This I'm going to save, that's why I'm taking it off carefully. Okay, I got it off. It's just this little tiny V-shaped piece of metal, but I do want to squeeze that open a little bit. So I put the diagonal cutter between the little V shape and I just squeeze it open a little bit. Basically like prying it open. That's important because I need to put this back on. So you can see that the diagonal cutter actually opened it a little bit. That's blurry, but maybe it'll focus. Focus. Well, it's open a little bit. So I'm taking the other one off too. So you just take those off and save them. So I've decided that my zipper is going to be shorter. I don't have to, I can't just cut it off. Number one, I need that stopper to be returned to the stop where I want the zipper to stop. Number two, I need to have this little tail. So here's the stopper and this is the excess. This part is going to live inside whatever you're making. So it cannot be flush cut because it will unravel. As you can see, if you cut it off flush and you try to install your zipper, it's just going to come apart. You need that piece in there to live inside your garment or your bag or whatever it's going to be. So that's why I mark it here and then I go up a little bit. Just a few teeth. It doesn't have to be a lot. And I'm careful to cut between the teeth so I don't ruin my scissors. Or you can use crummy scissors to do the cutting, which I didn't. Using my good scissors, I'm so bad. So I cut between the teeth and I've got my line where I need to stop, because where I stop, that's where I'm going to put my stoppers back on. So if you look at a zipper tooth very closely, you'll see the top part of the tooth, the top part is bulbous, it's bigger. It's actually like a tooth, it's big on the top here, and then on the bottom where it's connected to the tape, that's called tape. This red stuff is called tape, it's zipper tape. It's bigger on the top and it easily clips from the bottom. Don't clip it from the top. If you clip it from the bottom part, you can just get that tooth right off. Some, I must say, are much easier to clip than others. But you know, you got a good pair of diagonal cutters, you can just clip those teeth as close as you need to. So you just clip a few of them off. Sometimes it goes very quickly. This zipper is, I guess, the metal is smaller. There's zippers that are bigger teeth, and those will take a little bit more muscle and a good diagonal cutter. So don't get them at Harbor Freight. Get a decent one. This one I'm using is a crappy one, actually. I need a better one. So I'm almost down to my line, but I'm going to take one more tooth off where my line is, because I need room for my stopper. When you measure a zipper, it's from metal to metal. So if I was going to measure this zipper at 6 inches, the 6 inches starts, of course, at the very bottom, which is the metal part, and then it ends at the top where the zipper stops. The extra tape is not part of the measurement. So I've got a little room there, and all I do is, don't lose it. I take that little guy, it's hard, it's smaller than your fingers, and just put it back on. You can put it anywhere. You don't have to put it in place yet. Just get it on, because this tape is thicker at the edges to hold the teeth. So I've got it on, I pushed it. That's the hardest part, is getting it on. So now I want to just slide it down into place. So I'm just pulling it with my fingernails. So now it's in place, and I straighten it up. And I want to make sure that it's very snug. I turn it over and the other side wasn't snug. So make sure you flip it over and look at the other side as well. So now I'm looking at it and it looks like it's in place. So all I have to do is from the other side, not from the top, but opposite where the metal is give it a good squeeze with my needle nose. And it's now hugging again. And we have a shorter zipper. So then I just do the same thing over here. Cool, huh? The other thing I like to use needle nose for is I like to have them right by the machine. If you're hemming something or if you're sewing something by hand, it's sometimes you're sewing something really thick. I can't get the needle through there. And I'm not really good. You can use a thimble, but what I like about the needle nose as opposed to a thimble is that you can steer it in there and you need some muscle to push it like you would use a thimble for, but also when you want to pull it out, it's easier to just pull it out with your needle nose. Instead of, if you're using a thimble, you can push it, but then you try to pull it with your fingers and you can't get a grab. So that's why I like the needle nose. I can get a good grab for it. That's about it. That's all today. Just wanted to show you a couple of things in case you need to shorten a zipper. When would we want to shorten a zipper, you ask? I like to shorten. I have a lot of metal zippers. Metal zippers are really nice. People love them. They look good on a lot of things. And if you just happen to have one that's too long, you can't really sew over it. You have to shorten it. So that's why I wanted to show you how to shorten it. Somebody had given me a lot of zippers and I love them all and I use them for different things, but they're all like, some of them are 36 inches long. So I'm shortening them all the time. So it's nice to have that option and to know how to do that option other than sewing over it. Because number one, you'll break your needle and it won't give you a good stitch across. Any questions on that? You guys good? Okay, I'll stop the recording.